Before we begin, please note this story is intended for informational and educational purposes. Some scenes have been dramatized for storytelling clarity, but the facts are based on real investigative methods and publicly available reports. Everyone mentioned is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Viewer discretion is advised, as this video contains details that may be disturbing to some audiences. Join us as we dive deep into the haunting true story. A string of murders had plunged the city into a state of quiet terror, leaving investigators grappling with a puzzle that seemed to defy all logic and reason. The victims, unconnected by profession, social status, or geography, were all found in circumstances that were as baffling as they were gruesome. There were never any signs of forced entry, not a splintered door frame or a shattered window pane. The crime scenes were eerily pristine, scrubbed clean of any discernible fingerprints or foreign DNA. Most perplexingly, there was no obvious exit path. In each and every case, the victims were discovered locked inside their own homes, in rooms secured tightly from the inside, often with multiple bolts and chains. The medical examiner's reports were consistent. They had all been dead for hours, sometimes days, before anyone had thought to break down the door. The initial theory that circulated through the weary homicide division pointed towards a professional locksmith, someone with a masterful, almost supernatural understanding of locks. Yet, this hypothesis crumbled under scrutiny. Forensic locksmiths, brought in to examine the mechanisms, were stunned by what they found, or rather, what they didn't find. The locks on the doors were not picked or bypassed. They were perfectly intact, with no scratches, no tool marks, no sign of tampering whatsoever. The precision was chilling. It suggested something far more disturbing, a conclusion that detectives were reluctant to even voice. The killer hadn't entered or left through the door at all. It was as if a ghost had passed through the walls, committed a heinous act, and then sealed the room from within before vanishing into thin air. The media, catching wind of the bizarre details, had a field day, dubbing the phantom assailant the locksmith killer, a moniker that only deepened the public's fear. This documentary peels back the layers of this confounding case, uncovering the raw, unedited police interviews with witnesses and suspects, revealing the intricate patterns that began to emerge from the crime scenes, and exposing the one chilling connection between the victims that finally broke the investigation wide open. It was a detail so subtle, it was almost missed. In the weeks, and sometimes months, leading up to their deaths, every single victim had reported minor, seemingly insignificant break-in attempts. A jiggled doorknob in the middle of the night, a key that suddenly wouldn't turn, a faint scratch near a keyhole that was dismissed as wear and tear. At the time, these were chalked up to petty vandalism or clumsy burglars. But in hindsight, a horrifying pattern took shape. Someone hadn't been trying to get in. Someone had been practicing. Someone had been testing their locks. We will now walk you through the harrowing timeline of the murders, the gallery of suspects who were scrutinized and dismissed, and the final, shocking revelation that didn't just change the direction of the case, it turned it completely on its head, permanently altering the way the department viewed the very nature of crime itself. The first victim was a retired librarian named Eleanor Vance, a woman known for her meticulous habits and quiet life. She was found in her small, immaculately kept bungalow, seated in her favorite armchair, a book resting in her lap. The front door was dead-bolted, and a chain was securely fastened. The windows were all latched from the inside. Her nephew, concerned after not hearing from her for 2 days, had called the police. It took 2 officers and a battering ram to get inside. The coroner determined she had been dead for at least 36 hours. There were no marks on her body, no signs of a struggle. The cause of death was a lethal injection of a fast-acting, untraceable poison. The only thing out of place was a faint, almost invisible scratch on the brass of her front door's lock, something her nephew had dismissed when he first tried his key. 2 weeks later, the killer struck again. This time, the victim was a young software engineer, Mark Renshaw. He lived on the 12th floor of a high-security apartment building with keycard access and a 24-hour doorman. He was found by his cleaning lady, who had to get building management to drill out the lock on his apartment door. The scene was a haunting echo of the first. Renshaw was in his home office, slumped over his keyboard. The room was locked from the inside, the window sealed shut. Again, the cause of death was poison. And again, a seemingly innocuous detail surfaced during the investigation. Renshaw had complained to his building superintendent a month prior that his keycard had momentarily failed and that he thought he heard someone tampering with his door one evening. The incident was logged but never followed up on. The detectives, led by the seasoned but increasingly frantic Detective Miles Corbin, were at a dead end. They had no weapon, no physical evidence, and a killer who left no trace. The press was relentless, and public pressure was mounting. Corbin's team re-interviewed neighbors, family members, and colleagues of both victims, searching for any overlap, any shared enemy or acquaintance. They found nothing. Vance and Renshaw had lived in different parts of the city and moved in entirely different social circles. The only link was the impossible nature of their deaths and the strange reports of prior lock tampering. Corbin felt like he was hunting a phantom, a killer who possessed an impossible skill. The third murder sent a fresh wave of panic through the city. A married couple, the Harringtons, were found in their suburban home. They were discovered by their son, who came to visit for his father's birthday. The scene was the most secure yet. Not only was the front door deadbolted and chained, but they were in their master bedroom, and its heavy oak door was also bolted from the inside. The police had to break down to locked doors to reach them. Like the others, they were poisoned. And like the others, the Harringtons had filed a police report 6 weeks earlier. They had heard noises at their back door late one night and found deep scratches on the lock plate the next morning, as if someone had tried, and failed, to force it. It was this third incident that finally provided Corbin with the thread he needed. It wasn't about the victims knowing each other. It was about the locks themselves. He brought in every report of attempted break-ins from the past 6 months, hundreds of them, and spread them across a massive board in the incident room. Working with his team, they began to cross-reference the type of locks mentioned in the reports. A pattern began to emerge. All the victims had one specific brand of high-security lock installed on their doors, the Medico M3. It was known for its patented design, virtually impossible to pick by conventional means. The killer wasn't just a locksmith, they were a specialist, targeting a specific, challenging piece of hardware. The investigation now shifted focus. Instead of looking for a connection between the victims, they started looking for a connection to the locks. Who sold them? Who installed them? The manufacturer provided a list of certified distributors and locksmiths in the region. The list was long, but it was a start. Corbin's team began the painstaking process of vetting every single person on that list, checking alibis, and digging into their backgrounds. For weeks, they worked around the clock, fueled by coffee and a desperate need for a breakthrough. They interviewed dozens of locksmiths, security experts, and hardware suppliers. Most were cooperative, horrified that their trade was being associated with such monstrous crimes, but a few raised red flags. One name that kept coming up was a man named Arthur Finch. He was a reclusive, exceptionally gifted locksmith who had been fired from one of the city's most reputable security firms a year earlier. The official reason was unreliable behavior, but his former colleagues told a more detailed story. Finch was obsessed, a purist who viewed modern security as a personal challenge. He would spend his free time developing new ways to defeat high-security systems, not for criminal gain, but for the intellectual thrill of it. He was brilliant, but his superiors found his fixation unsettling. He had been let go after he was caught, after hours, practicing on the company's most advanced demonstration locks without authorization. When detectives went to question Finch, they found his small apartment was more of a workshop than a home. The walls were lined with schematics of complex locking mechanisms. His workbench was a chaotic landscape of tumblers, pins, and custom-made tools. He was evasive and arrogant, sneering at the detective's pedestrian understanding of his craft. He claimed he could open any lock ever made, but he denied any involvement in the murders, providing a flimsy alibi for the night of the Harrington deaths. Corbin knew he was their man, but he had no concrete evidence to tie him to the crime scenes. Finch was too careful, too meticulous, to leave anything behind. The case stalled again. Corbin had his prime suspect, but he was untouchable. Frustration mounted in the incident room. The team felt they were just one small step away, but that step was across a chasm they couldn't bridge. It was then that a junior analyst, a young woman named Officer Chen, noticed something no one else had. While reviewing the crime scene photos from the Harrington house for the 10th time, she zoomed in on the bedroom door. There, on the edge of the metal strike plate where the bolt slid into the doorframe, was a tiny, almost imperceptible discoloration, a slight smudge of a grayish, metallic residue. It was so small it had been overlooked by the initial forensics team. Corbin, desperate for any lead, ordered a full spectral analysis of the residue. The results came back and changed everything. The substance was a highly specific, custom-blended metal alloy, one that included traces of gallium. Gallium is a soft metal that has an unusually low melting point. It can liquefy in a person's hand. In a refined, concentrated form, it can be used to compromise the structural integrity of other metals, a process known as gallium-induced structural embrittlement. Someone could paint a thin layer of it onto a lock's bolt. Over time, the gallium would seep into the metal, making it incredibly brittle. Suddenly, the impossible became possible. The killer wasn't picking the locks, they were preparing them. Weeks in advance, during their testing phase, the killer would apply a small amount of the gallium alloy to the deadbolt. Then, on the night of the murder, they could return and apply a small, directed force-specific vibration frequency or a precise, sharp tap. The pre-weakened bolt would shatter inside the lock mechanism, allowing the door to be opened with no visible signs of forced entry. The killer could then enter, commit the murder, and leave. But how did they lock the door from the inside on their way out? This was the final piece of the puzzle, and the answer was both ingenious and horrifying. The killer wasn't just breaking the bolt, they were replacing it. After shattering the original bolt, they would insert a pre-made duplicate, one that was rigged with a tiny, spring-loaded mechanism. This new bolt would hold the door shut. The mechanism could then be triggered remotely, hours later, by a specific radio frequency. This would slide the new bolt into the locked position from the inside, engaging the deadbolt and even the chain, creating the perfect locked room mystery. The killer could be miles away when the final locking took place. The method was brilliant, complex, and required a level of expertise that pointed directly back to Arthur Finch. The custom gallium alloy was the smoking gun Corbin needed. A search warrant for Finch's workshop now focused on finding traces of the unique metal. Hidden in a false cotton drawer, they found it, a small vial of the grayish liquid, along with several partially constructed, spring-loaded replacement bolts designed specifically for the Medico M3. Finch's game was over. Under interrogation, faced with the irrefutable scientific evidence, his arrogance finally cracked. He confessed to everything, not with remorse, but with a chilling pride in his own cleverness. He had seen the high-security locks not as protection, but as a challenge. The murders were secondary, merely a way for him to prove that he was smarter than any system designed to keep him out. The victims were chosen at random, their only crime being the purchase of a lock that Finch had deemed a worthy opponent. The revelation sent a shockwave through the security industry and left a city to mourn the victims of a man who killed not for passion or profit, but for the intellectual satisfaction of solving a puzzle. The case of the Locksmith killer was closed, but the terrifying knowledge of how easily security could be defeated by a determined mind lingered long after Arthur Finch was locked away for good. The story of the Locksmith killer is a chilling reminder that the greatest threats often come from where we least expect them, exploiting the very systems we trust to keep us safe. If you found this investigation intriguing, subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world's most complex and baffling criminal cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an update as we uncover the truth, one mystery at a time. All visuals and audio elements are used under fair use for commentary and analysis. This story is shared to inform, not to sensationalize. Kindly subscribe to Mystery Arena for more intriguing stories. Here truth isn't hidden, it's uncovered. See you in the next story.